I'm going to start off with a story. Some of you, I think, are familiar with this story. Some of you may not be. When I was a sophomore in college, it was our winter break, and my family and I, the four of us took a trip down to Costa Rica. And one of the days there, we went whitewater rafting. And it was something I was excited about. On one level, I was excited about it. And went through the safety instruction ahead of time. This is what you do for fall overboard. Great, fantastic. And we're going and having a good time. And at some point in the trip, I fell overboard. And I actually got stuck in an eddy, got stuck in a whirlpool. And terrified, right? At first, I was like, okay, whatever, this is fine, not a thing. And they say, the safety instruction, they say you count to 5 because you'll be out there, you're going to be under, your heart's going to be pacing really fast. You're not going to be under that long, but your mind's going to think it is. Okay. So I counted to 5 and I was still under, and then I made it to 10. And okay, then I started to worry, but I came back up, and I was wearing a life vest, so I know that was going to make me buoyant. And I get up and I look around, and my raft is like a good 15 feet from me. I'm like, oh, all right. So I see a rock maybe 6 feet from me. So I start swimming towards the rock, and I get pretty close to it, and then the eddy pulls me back down underneath. And I'm like, start to freak out a little bit. I'm like, all right, well, so I swim as hard as I could, and in the direction that I thought was up. And I ran out of energy, and I still was underwater. Like, oh, this isn't really good. So then I surfaced up again, and I was a little closer to that rock. So great. So I swam close again to that rock, and I got really close, and I got pulled back down underneath. And surfaced a third time, and I remember my dad. And at this point, I had a thought pop in my head about when my dad first took me like in the ocean when I was 8 or 10. He's like, never fight the water. The water's stronger than you. Right? It will carry you. Do not fight it. So that thought, and he's like, never panic. That was the way. Never panic in the water. I'm like, okay, great. But I had nothing left, and so I did panic, and like I just let that totally come over me. And if you've seen the movie Titanic, and at the very end when she goes to scream for help, and all that comes out is a whisper, well, that's what happened. I actually screamed for help, and which is a scary thing to do in the first place. But all that came out was a whisper that just like tripled my panic. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I got pulled back down again under the eddy, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I have nothing left in the tank. Emotionally, I was spent. Physically, I had nothing left. Adrenaline was shot, and so I just relaxed. I had no other choice, right? I couldn't. I mean, I was super tense, but it was exhausted. I was exhausted. It felt, I don't know how long it was. Maybe it was 30 seconds, but it felt like 4 hours for me. And I had this just stillness come over me. And I said, well, I really had the thought like, I'm going to die now. And like, I was at peace. I was okay. And then the next thing I know, I had surfaced back up, and I was back in the main bed of the river. And I was never touched a rock, never touched anything, completely scratch free. Another raft pulled me up on theirs, and I was fine. I mean, I wasn't fine. I was messed up for a good while, and had all sorts of issues with nightmares and all sorts of stuff. But there was a huge transformative moment for me in my life. But one of the things about that story for me is that like when I let go and I trusted the greater energy of life, I was taken somewhere. I was taken to safety. When I stopped fighting, when I stopped pushing and fighting and working so hard against what I thought I had to do and where I was supposed to go, and this is how to do it, life took me the right way. And it's a message that continues to unfold for me in my life now, not nearly as dramatic, as that was, but it's an important lesson for me to continue to own, and I'm offering it for you, is that we are not separate from life. And we live in a culture that really has separated. Like the Industrial Revolution, and with the growth of cities, we moved away from like a farming culture. So it means plenty of the country, plenty of the world is still much in a farming culture. But for so much of society, when we haven't, and the majority of the population is really pocketed in these urban areas and cities, we are cut off from a lot of life, and a lot of the pace of life and what we're supposed to be doing, is not natural. And I'm not saying it's bad or wrong, and I'm doing this on a computer and I have a cell phone. I'm not, bemoaning society and saying like, oh, all the ills come from city. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that for a lot of us, we've lost that connection to our primary nature. And when we can recognize that we are still nature, we are still animals, we still have this primal connection with life, then we learn to cooperate with it. We learn to work with it. There's a lot of the teachings in acupuncture is really about the seasons and about the way this ancient medicine was designed, was talking the words they use are heat, cold, dampness, dryness, rivers of energy. It's not like organ based, like or chromosomal based, right? The energy of the season is very important. So a lot of what I do as a practitioner is saying like, okay, what's happening now in the seasons, and how does that help explain what's going on with somebody internally? We all have our specific lives, and this is not to discount what someone's individual story is, but there's a greater theme at play. When we can connect to that, we can start to work with it. We start to understand we start to understand ourselves a little better. So when we understand that our life is here to cooperate with life, all of a sudden nature and the natural way is not an enemy, not something to fear or something to run from, or how do we learn how to do it? It's just tuning back into it. We are connected to that. That's who we are at our core. So I will, it's part of like, if you take a walk on a nice day, or you go to the woods, or you see a beautiful sunset, there's just a quiet stillness that comes over you. And it's just kind of like, oh, right. There's no work needs to be done. It's just such a natural place for us to reconnect with that energy. But so much of our day-to-day life, we are not connected with that. And we're just caught up in culture, and that's how we are. Okay, fine. And we need to abandon culture and all go live in yurts in the middle of nowhere. But we can still connect with that, the pace of life. Things flow and then they go away. There's birth, there's life, there's death, of a sound, of a breath, of a being. It's all part of just cooperating, all part of life. So when we can learn and we can really own that, it ends up being that we are just cooperating with it. Because we are not stronger than life. We're not stronger than tornadoes or hurricanes or the ocean. Like, we can work with it. We can harness that energy, but we're not here to control it. It's far stronger than us. So I am all about respecting the earth, and I'm all about working in community with that. But I definitely have a little bit of a perhaps unpopular thought when I hear that, okay, well, we are, the earth is hurting and the earth mother is crying. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. She is far stronger than us. I think that's a bit of an overstatement, a bit of a self-aggrandizing statement. Doesn't give us permission just to throw trash everywhere. I still think we need to be respectful of our environment, and we need to, absolutely recycle and like watch our carbon footprint and all of these things that we can do. But it's not necessarily that we are so powerful. Like, Earth's stronger than us. She's going to swallow us up one day. Like, okay. But when we can learn to connect with these energies, this is the whole point of this, is we connect with the flow of life. Then it is something that we can work with, we can harness, we can take with us. It empowers us, as opposed to something we need to fight or resist or argue against or try to control. Because the river is going to take us where we're going to go. If I had kept fighting, I might have drowned that day. But when I relaxed and let the river take me, relaxed into the greater energies, worked with it, okay, here I am sitting with you guys all. So I will invite you to consider that, how in your life you might feel some resistance to what is happening, resistance to what is natural, and see how can you connect with that and cooperate with that, and see where that space is within you, because it exists. So thank you so much for stepping in tonight to this process, and have yourselves a pleasant evening.